Hello everybody and welcome to Fuji, ready for the Radical Sim Racing European Championship to return after the summer break. We're here at the Fuji Speedway for round number 7 of our championship. Just 4 more rounds to go, including this one, until we know which drivers will be in the World Finals, which 7 drivers will be in the World Finals, and which next 7 will be in the playoff the week before our big finale that, of course, takes on both the European and America's Championship into account to give us one Radical Sim Racing champion in 2025. It's myself, Ewan Leary, and Dan Field alongside me for the first time here tonight. Good to be alongside you for this one. Dan, a good circuit to have this one, Fuji. We did a race here a couple of weeks ago, and these Radicals look quite small, I've got to say, in relation to this big circuit, but it should provide some good action for us here tonight.
Yeah, what a circuit. I mean, it's steeped in history and it's a very tricky one to get right, especially in these very difficult to handle Radical SR8 cars. I can't wait to get into it tonight. We're getting into the busy end of the season and it's going to be a very exciting one today.
Absolutely. There's only a few more rounds to go. I'll say 4 more. We know where the next round's going to be in 3 weeks, but we still don't know the last 2. I think that we maybe do know. Maybe. Don't know. But anyway, we follow the normal regular season schedule from the Radical E-Cup. So it's all available on iRacing, of course. Those final 2 rounds happening in October before our November finale. As I say, the last chance and the World Finals. And this is the details of how things go. I'll work myself from bottom to top. Vice champions in the teams getting free entry to next season, as to the teams champions, but they also get a free track in iRacing per driver on the team. As I said before, 8th to 14th will go to the last chance qualifier, whereas the top 7 go to the World Final. Second place, additionally to that, gets free entry next year. And on top of all of that, the Drivers' Champion gets a iRacing subscription for 12 months at the end of 2025. And at the moment, it's Christoph Lipp who currently holds that, as he is the current championship leader of our Drivers' Championship. In the teams, though, here we go. Which shall we go for first? Here we go. It's the pro standings, first of all, for the drivers. 27 points is the gap. Christopher Terrain just in behind, with Hava Gullikson then in 3rd place. 13 points back to James Barry, another inner racing team driver, along with Sebastian Lipp, who rounds out the top 5. Then Cattell Larson and Oscar Soltero, the last drivers in the top 7 so far. Friedrich is just about, how many points is that? Trying to do live maths. 34 points, 14 points between Soltero and Friedrich, with Mats Gilströmbacken and Sully Rattinen also looking in for that top 7. In the team pro standings, Inner Racing 2 are quite a long way ahead of the number 1 team, and IGL Coatings have been a little bit further behind this season. Nix Esports also in there, but they're down in 5th place. As I mentioned before, only the top 2 really worth being in for the team's standings. In the Drivers' AM standings, Luke Crowley's leading the way by just 19 points. Then it's Louis Gregg, followed 3 points further behind by Eric Benson and Gabriel Berger, a further 2 points back. Very close at the top. Mika Henrik Hokkonen, Ole Gunnar Strenstrud and Robert Walker round out the top 7, only 5 points ahead of Menno de Graaf. And then as you go further down, those who have not been at very many rounds this season, Guy Robertson, Pablo Serrano, who round out the top 10 at the moment. In the teams, it is B-Team Racing who are leading by only 36 points ahead of Team Slow-Mo. An interesting fight in the championship is developing. Project 91 Academy then in 3rd place, before the 2 teams at the bottom who have not been at quite as many rounds so far this season. That's how we've got up until this point. Let's have a look now at how last race went. Round number 6 of the Radical Sim Racing European Championship was our final one before the summer break, and it was the Lipp brothers who got the pole position together. You can see them getting away rather well on the run down towards turn number 1. And it was Christoph Lipp who led the way through ahead of Sebastian, with the first of the IGL Coatings cars getting itself into 3rd place. A nice clean start from everybody through turn number 1. As the race settled down, some great battling emerged, as you always likely to see at the Red Bull Ring. This is Luke Crowley, George Gonzaga, Ivan Bremer and Kim-Andre Björklund all fighting in that order. This is a look down the inside from George Gonzaga, you can see in the inner E-Racing team. But Crowley, late enough on the brakes on the outside line in turn 4, was able to keep 11th place. These groups would pop up throughout the entirety of the circuit, but unfortunately finally come to blows. That was Gonzaga hitting Crowley on the way towards turn 3. He immediately recognised his mistake and let Crowley back in. That Crowley, of course, the AM Drivers' Championship leader. This is Sully Rattinen versus Denis Kirakopoulos through the final couple of corners. Side by side through here is not something you see very often actually work, but in the background, Oscar Soltero was enjoying it. The Nix Esports driver would gain on both of these guys as a result. And have a look on towards turn 1. He couldn't get through because Rutten and Kirakopoulos still continued their battle. Out front, Frank Sikorsky was able to take a brief lead ahead of Lasse Sorensen and Gatel Larsen as Christoph and Sebastian Lipp made their pit stops just under 28 minutes from the end. When they got out onto the circuit again, they were in a lot of traffic. That was initially a bit of a concern for them. Generally, you want to be out in the clean air, but it didn't matter. The two were way too quick for the rest of the field, and they came home 1 and 2, brothers in arms, at the end of a long race and over 12 seconds in front of the rest of the field. Further behind, Louis Gregg got into the top 10 by the end, and he won the AM class just a couple of positions ahead of Luke Crowley by the finish. It was a great performance from Louis Gregg, who actually just slightly narrowed that leading margin at the front by 10 points, now down to 19 in the AM drivers' standings. There's the conditions for us tonight. Just gone 8 o'clock in the morning, so only 28 degrees on the track temperature. Not too warm on the track, which is the good thing, but tyres not expected to be changed over the course of this race. It's really, over the course of the next hour, going to be all about fuel stops and how you strategize your way through the hour-long race.
Absolutely. I mean, it's going to be difficult to know what's going on with the strategy at times, given that they're going to be making at least 2 pit stops in this race. And qualifying is coming to an end at the minute. Christoph Lipp, of course, winner last time out in Austria, leads the way at the minute, but it's still close further behind. So it could be anyone's guess as to who takes pole position.
Will be. At the moment, held by Christoph Lipp, but there's still just over a minute to go in this qualifying session. We're seeing the final few corners and the final sector here for number 1, Christoph Lipp, who's currently the championship leader and indeed the current session leader here. Christopher Tavain is not here today, unfortunately. He will take this as one of his drop rounds, and that will be a 73-point score in that case. But he missed the Red Bull Ring round as well, so hopefully he does return later on in the season when we go to the Hockenheim Ring in just a few weeks' time. The race is now, as Sebastian Lipp goes over the line there, 7th place. The race is now come a little bit thicker and faster because the session's drawing to a close, and indeed the season's drawing to a close, and the summer break is very much over. So let's obviously get less attendance throughout the summer as we miss a few weeks. We're back now though, and good to be back as well. As that session completes, we will have a look at the starting grid. Ready for an hour of racing here from Fuji, starting with a standing start in just a moment, of course. Christoph Lipp takes the pole ahead of IGL Coatings. 3 of the next 4 have a Gullickson alongside. French Sikorsky, the only one not on their team, who's in 3rd place there. Gatel Larsen, Lasse Sorensen next, set of Oscar Soltero, the first of the Nix Esports drivers, has qualified in 6th place. Sebastian Lipp down in 7th this time, as opposed to on the front row with his brother. Mats Gilström back in, Sully Rattanen and James Barry round out the top 10, with Ivan Bramer 11th. Luke Crowley is then on pole in the AM class. He's 12th overall. Dennis Kirakopoulos is next, ahead of Kim-Andre Bjorklund, another all-pro row. Andreas Friedrich and Pablo Serrano then share row 8, ahead of Rudolf Nagel and Robert Walker, with the final row of the grid taken up by a couple of AM drivers, Ole Gunnar Stolzrud, Stensrud and Stefan Mellis, the only all-AM row. So just 20 cars on the grid, a little bit lower than what we've seen in some of the races gone by, but that might not be the worst thing. It's not going to be a small grid by any means, and this run down towards turn 1 as well is going to be a big feature for everybody because it's such a tight opening corner here.
Absolutely, the heavy downhill braking, it can really catch the drivers out, especially in these SR8 cars. You really want to do all your braking in the straight line. The drivers are just gridding up now. It's good to see a nice mix between the pro and the AM drivers, especially towards the tail end of that field. We're still in the height of summer, so you can expect a lot of people to still be away, not wanting to sit in their sim rigs. And I don't know about you, Ewan, but I am boiling at the minute, so I can imagine with all these guys running their very hot direct drive steering wheels, I wouldn't want to be racing either.
I mean, it's not as bad as it has been in some of the previous days, to be fair, in the UK today. Some of these drivers are indeed from the UK, but don't mind it so much. It depends. Horses. It very much depends how you view it as a driver. As the lights come on now here from Fuji, an hour of racing as we get the Radical Sim Racing European Championship back underway after the summer break. In towards turn number 1 we go again, and the pole sitter Christoph Lipp looking to maintain that lead down the inside. It's nearly 4 wide. Oh, for 4th place. That's a big look down the inside from one of the Nick C Sports drivers, but they all get through the first corner okay. All 20 of them out the other side as they come down towards turn 3. It's Lipp who leads, and they get single file in the top 5 after a lively start that was 4 wide ever so briefly.
See everyone still going in a straight line. Oscar Soltero was the one to dive right up the inside and make it 4 wide there, but it is the pole sitter Christoph Lipp leading the way. They're swapping positions, jockeying for places throughout the grid, but it's been a very clean start all round.
Has side by side further back for 3rd place here between Sorensen and Sikorsky. Larson and Soltero also involved in this. Into the hairpin and the chicane, of course, through turn 10, 11 and 12. And it's going to be Sorensen who gets 3rd, then Sikorsky, then Larson. But I'm surprised they're not more organised, to be honest, because this is allowing the front 2 drivers to break away.
Absolutely, I mean, an hour is a pretty long time to be sitting in a sim rig and getting your race on. You've really got to prioritise sticking with the leaders, because you can't win it within 58 minutes of the race actually finishing. Here's Sebastian Lipp, he's right in the mid-pack at the minute in P7, just 3 seconds off his brother in the lead. But it's been a very clean start all round as they complete the first lap here.
As only a little bit of tyre smoke saw in the background through the hairpin, but I don't really think there was very much the chicane, I should say, the hairpin into the chicane. Don't think there was too much going on there. A big bit of defending from Sorensen here, and all these guys resigning themselves to 3rd already. Sorensen defends from Sikorsky, who I'm not entirely sure wanted to make any moves there, but was sort of forced into it, and Larson gets through as he makes a mistake there to Sikorsky. So Cadell Larson goes straight through on the outside, or does he? Sikorsky still side by side on the inside, but he's going to surely slip through, Larson. And there you go, 4th place. He moves up to, but again, they've got to be concerned about those front 2. And clearly they're far more interested in fighting amongst themselves.
Strange decision for Sorensen to really heavily defend that first corner. You're absolutely right. Sikorsky didn't want to really fight that position at all. Soltero and I can't say that name. Number 90 fighting it out. I will get them all right, but they're still scrapping it out for the minor top 10 positions in towards the chicane. I mean, yeah, the 2 leaders, they are just running away with it. So it's an interesting decision for them to fight for P3 already when the 2 leaders are just getting away.
Yeah, they can, of course, help each other in the draft a little bit later on, but is the damage already going to be done? And based on what we saw from Christoph Lipp in the last race, and he did in races previous, he is a very difficult driver to catch when he's out front like that. So you'd imagine that it's going to be between the front 2. There is Lipp. End of lap 2. He's got half a second over Gullikson, who's done a very good job to stay with the leader, but the rest of them are fighting amongst themselves. Again, Sorensen now the one who gets clear, but it's Sikorsky versus Larson. Sikorsky in no draft there at all, looking down the inside. Soltero and Sebastian Lipp are just going to lap up the slipstream and the fuel-saving opportunity for them down in towards turn number 1, while Sikorsky makes the pass for 4th.
Sikorsky, he wanted to get that one done. He felt hard done by Sorensen, sort of forcing him to go for a move. That left him vulnerable to Larson, and Sikorsky decided to go back through once more into P4. But again, they are quite a ways behind the leaders, Christoph Lipp and Gullikson. And I think it's a bit of a different story last time out to the Red Bull Ring with the 2 Lipp brothers. They would have kept it a lot more civil. I think Gullikson, he'll have a chip on his shoulder. Lipp will know that. And I think the battling could be a bit more feisty than we saw last time.
Yeah, maybe. Into turn 10. And this time they're all single file, other than when you get down to the further back in the pack. Who's that side by side? Couldn't quite work it out, actually, in the background there. Friedrich and Mellis are certainly side by side for 16th and 17th place, but Andreas Friedrich is a long way back compared to where you'd expect to see him in one of these races. And now he finally slipped through into 16th. Mellis not going to let it go, though. And here's a first view as to... Oh, dear, that's too wide. I was going to say, here's a first view as to the racing you can have through the final sector. And as much as people don't seem to like driving it very much, final sector is pretty good for racing. And we nearly saw it there with Mellis, although he did overcook that quite a lot.
And that was very close to seeing the barrier, was Mellis, but he's kept it. He's come back onto the road. It's good to see him rejoin the circuit. You're absolutely right, Friedrich, way down the order from what we would expect from him. Here's a battle. This is Soltero and Sebastian Lip. It's Lip on the inside to take the position from Soltero, who's now out of sorts and under pressure from the car behind. So Soltero, in the span of just 2 corners, going to lose out 2 positions.
Yeah, Mads Gestenbakken goes right round the outside into turn 3 and up to 7th place. So Soltero, the best placed of the Nix Esports drivers, but is becoming pushed further and further down the field in these standings. Soltero, the last driver at the moment in that top 7 that will make it through into the World Final with no problem, and will avoid and bypass the last chance race, which comes up the week before that in November, before the World Finals of 2025 later this year. Just outside of that top 7 is Andres Friedrich and Gestenbakken, Reitinen, Bjorklund, all of whom are in this race, and on the outside of that top 7 looking to avoid that last chance race, as anything can happen there. You want to make sure of it, and that's what he's going to try and do here, Soltero, currently 8th place and losing a few points to those who matter though. Onto the front straight they go. It's all one long line. Dorenson's trying to catch up to the 2 leaders who are not quite clear yet.
I think Sorensen has done a good job to catch back up to these guys. We got a replay of Stenstrud. This is a replay indeed. So this is down in the final sector, if I'm not mistaken. Is there a little bit of contact or a drop here? Is now in towards the next right-hander, drops it on his own and collects the other car. That was Bjorklund getting involved, and that is a real shame. Sort of an unforced error there. So I think Bjorklund, he will be quite upset about that from Ole Gunnar Stenstrud. But they continue on, a long way back though.
Not too much damage done, but certainly in terms of track position and time lost, there was a bit of damage done there, unfortunately. This is Stefan Mellis, and why he's even further off the back of the pack. Gets on that curb on the outside, spins to the inside, and he did grab the wall fairly hard. So maybe damage done properly for the first time tonight there for a driver. Stefan Mellis it is this time. Oh, and off! Sebastian Lip off at the turn 10 hairpin. That was a big miscalculation from him. Oh, he's going to do well to get this. He has just about got the turning circle. Thank goodness for that. As he tried to rejoin. He's down outside the top 10 now and threw it off the road so as not to hit the drivers in front of him.
Completely misjudged his braking there, almost right into the back of what I think was Sikorsky, if I'm not mistaken. Here's the replay of Sebastian Lip headed down into the chicane, and it is indeed Sikorsky who brakes just that little bit heavier than Sebastian Lip would have wanted, and he has to take to the escape road. He does very well to get back on in a very timely manner. He's rejoined the circuit, now down in 15th position.
Soltero comes into the pit lane early as well, so this is an early stop. He probably can make it to the end from here on one more stop after this. Everybody will make 2, of course, but whether he's what his choice is there, I'm not sure. That's Larson going slowly out of turn 1. There looks to have been something there, and he's still going slow out of turn 1 now. He will finally bring it up to speed somewhat, but what was going on for Larson there in the 46 car? Slow out of turn number 1. Sikorsky and Gestenbakken both through as a result of that, and this is what happened.
So Kjetil Larsen in the number 46, feeling the pressure from Sikorsky, down in towards that first corner they go. Is there a little bit of contact? Larsen, he's kept it through in towards the mid-apex of the corner, and then just loses all the time. I'm not really sure what happened there, but that was a strange sort of turn of events there, and what that has really done is the top 3. They've just been able to stretch their advantage up the road. We can count Sorensen in the leading pack, but now Sikorsky has got a big gap to Sorensen ahead.
Yeah, it's notable that the front... the spin! Gullikson goes for a spin through the penultimate corner. Oh, just as it was calming down at the front of the field, Gullikson throws his position away from that front of the field. That will be really annoying for him. He'd raced so well to get into that position there, until he found a curb on the outside of turn 15, and he went around quick as he can say it, went into a spin. He's now into 10th place with so much work to do.
When I tell you that I've spilt my drink all over myself there, that was the worst possible time for an incident like that. Let's see it again. Gullickson running in second position with the lead, the win, but on the precipice in 50 minutes time, just drops it on the curb on the exit. That is going to be a big blow just to his mental state, really, in terms of this race. He's got to go around for at least 50, well, not at least, 450 more minutes, but instead of fighting for the win, he's down in 10th position.
Wow. It wasn't even like he smashed that yellow perpendicular curve, the anti-cuts. He was already spinning before then. He did go over them eventually, but he was already spinning. He was just on the power, as he said, just too eager out of turn 15. And from a great position, he's not only lost second place, he's created quite a gap in front of his teammate there. Lasse Sorensen's going to have to do a lot more hard work again to catch up to Sebastian Lipp. And suddenly these guys have got a less complicated race, but still 2 seconds is the gap between them and the front of the race.
It's going to be a difficult one for them, but they've just got to dig themselves in and really not fight it out like they have been doing. It seems like the battle for what was fourth position now turning into third position after Gullicksen's spin. It really has been the most hotly contested position in this race, and they've got to calm it down and try and catch up to Lipp and Sorensen, because they will still be fighting in these positions later on in the race, but it is whether or not they want to be in these spots with a chance of a win or being 12 seconds behind them.
Gullicksen has decided that he doesn't want any part of this anymore, and he's going to pit immediately. Second stop of the day, and it was a very long one for Soltero, so either he got the pit lane entry wrong and he sped, or he has just had some damage to repair or whatever. But I don't know. That was too long of a stop. This is Gullicksen, though, coming to a stop now. Expect this to be about 15 seconds, probably just a bit longer than that, as he gets to the end of the box. Now, it's a very long pit lane here, by the way. So you do lose a lot of time, but that might not be a bad thing if you can just end up in clean air for Gullicksen. It's better than being in this group that's still a train headed by Sikorsky.
It's quite the train as well. I mean, Luke Crowley is in that as well, as is Pablo Serrano. So we got to watch out for those guys in the amateur class. I was keeping tabs on them earlier. Crowley was many positions ahead of Serrano in second position, but now they're near enough to each other, just one car in between them of Ewan Bramer. We are still checking in with the top 10 battle because it is looking very nice and tasty. James Barry is at the head of this very short train here. Kjetil Larsen and Reitanen in behind as well, then Luke Crowley and Ewan Bramer as well. Bit of a gap to Serrano behind, so we've got to watch out for this train. Number 7 in the middle, that is Sauli Reitanen, is the driver in focus. We'll see what he can do as they head down and towards turn number 1 once more. Soltero's back in the pit lane.
Yeah, he's got trouble here. Soltero's got trouble, I'm afraid, and that might be the end of his day. We'll see whether he continues. Hopefully he does, but that's not good news for him, especially with so many of those on the outside looking in having decent races so far, like Gestenbakken in 4th place, and Sauli Reitanen's now in the top 10 as well, in 7th, so that's not good news for the Nix Esports driver. Here's Sebastian Lipp as well. He's been pretty anonymous in this race ever since that incident where he very nearly rear-ended Franit Sikorsky. Now he pulls into his box as well, and this is, for these guys, all about getting out of the dirty air of this train and into clean air. But don't forget, all of these guys will have to stop probably in the next 5 minutes or certainly the next 10.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be pandemonium in pit lane very soon, especially with all of these drivers so close together on circuit. We are riding on board with Ewan Bramer, and you can see how twitchy the car really can be, especially when you're trail braking. It's so difficult to get it right in these radical SR8 cars, but I tell you what, they are just beautiful to drive, aren't they? They're one of the free cars, if I'm not mistaken. That's why I've had access to them, but they are fun, and I think these guys, they are certainly having a lot of enjoyment at the minute. Although it's getting a little bit hot in their seats. We've seen plenty of mistakes so far from other drivers further back down the field. I checked in on the session events. Soltero's had the car towed into the pit lane, so I think that is the end of the race for the 122.
Yeah, it probably is. Crowley doesn't want any part of this anymore either. The AM leader has been caught by Pablo Serrano in the last few moments because of all this traffic, and he decides to come in as well. Lasse Sorensen has decided, instead of getting getting distanced by Christoph Lipp. He's going to do something different on strategy as well. That was a look down the inside from Larson as well. Or was it Gerstenbakken, sorry. Down the inside it was on Franit Sikorski. So he moves up to what is now second place, but it's really third when it all shakes out. And obviously we don't know where Gullickson's going to be at the end of all this, but he's ahead of Sebastian Lipp at the moment, and we'll see where Lasse Sorensen is in comparison to him as well. Gullickson stopped with about 5 seconds shorter than Sebastian Lips, who really went for a very long time in stop there, and Sorensen and Crowley are going much longer than Gullickson did. So Gullickson wants to short fuel and get back in the fray. As I was looking away, sorry, Sorensen's got a black flag. That's going to stop him for a long time.
And that's another driver who was in the fight for the lead and has made a mistake somewhere along the road and has helped out Christoph Lipp very nicely indeed. It was, I'm not sure what's happened there. Gullickson had his spin earlier, and now Sorensen has got himself a penalty. And so that is a real shame, but it has helped the number one car, the championship leader at the minute, Christoph Lipp. He's just got to run his race for the next 3/4 of an hour, and then it should be another win here today in Fuji. But of course, we've seen what's happened so far in 15 minutes of Fuji.
Oh.
It could all kick off, and look, everyone now coming into the pit lane near enough.
Yeah. Oh no, not quite. You can go from looking like you're going into the pit lane to not doing it, but you can't do it the other way round. So lots of drivers looked like they were coming in there, and in the end it was a bit of a game of chicken, because they wanted some clean air. Which was better going to afford you that? Was that pitting in or staying out? And roughly half chose half of the option there. A few more came in pit lane. Sorensen's still on pit lane, by the way. This is more than the black flag now. It's a retirement, it looks like. Sotero's still sat on pit lane as well. So those two might well be out of the race. But who's going to be out here first after these pit stops? It was a very long pull to the end of the pit lane for Sikorski. 12 seconds for Gerstenbakken. That's short. And he's going to be out first of those in the pit lane this time round. Sikorski going for a much longer stop this time round. He can go up to 20 seconds or so. You can go for a long time in the pit box here. 21. He wants all the fuel possible. And he's going to go deep in the second stint of this race.
Fascinating strategy decision for all of these drivers. It really does just throw things up in the air, and for the first time being here in the Radical SR8 Sim Racing Championship, this has been incredibly fun to witness, and we've still got 42 minutes of action left to be had. Christoph Lipp still yet to come into the pit lane. I believe the top 5, yes, you can see the gaps between the 6th place car of Gerstenbakken and the leader of Christoph Lipp. The top 5, they are yet to come into the pit lane. That's Lipp, Barry, Larson, Bremer and Nagel. The rest of them have at least made one pit stop. We've seen a couple more longer pit stops in the pit lane than we noticed before. Kyriakopoulos and Bjorklund, they've both been in the pit lane. They were in the pit lane for a very long time, back out on circuit, as here is Christoph Lipp and the rest of the top 5.
Yeah, speeding penalties have bitten a couple down the back end of the field. Unfortunately, already seen Sorensen, but Bjorklund and Kyriakopoulos have rejoined, and they're still going despite their speeding penalties. So lap 12 or lap 11, at the end of lap 11, everybody coming in. This was the limit with the starting fuel. How long is Christoph Lipp's stop really going to be here, and what does it take for him to get ahead of Gerstenbakken? Well, he wants to make absolutely sure he's got the lead, so only 10 seconds in the box from him, and he's going to lead by a long way. That's one of his shortest stops. That's one of the shortest stops of anybody. In fact, it is the shortest. That means he'll be coming in first, but he'll have a short stint here on low fuel to really go through and put some good lap times in, while he hopes the others scrap behind over these positions. Wait and see whether they actually do that, but Lipp's certainly going to get the clean air. What about everybody else?
It's a great decision from Christoph Lipp. I think he wants to put himself in his own race here and really just enjoy it while he's out in front by himself. Everyone else has really made unforced errors, and that is why he is now 6.8 seconds clear of James Barry, who's been able to jump into second position with that shorter pit stop. I think most of the top 5 who just pitted have gone much shorter than the drivers who pitted the lap previous, so now the grid has been shaken up a little bit. The likes of Franit Sikorski way down the order in 8th position now. Sebastian Lipp, he could be back in the fight at some point. It really has shaken things up, and we'll see how this race continues on. But yeah, what a race it's been thus far.
It's always such the fascinating thing about this series. It really is. It does mean that there's a little bit more teamwork in the second part of the race, but so many unknowns between now and and that second pit stop that you just do not know how to call this race from here for quite some time. All of these guys from second to sixth have done very similar times in the pit lane. So Barry, Gestenbakken, Larson, Gulliksen, Raitanen, all with very similar times. So they'll be close together. Bremer and Sikorsky, same again, although Sikorsky's taken on the longest of anybody, so he will gain a lot of time here. Luke Crowley won't be with them at the end of the next run because he's had a lot less fuel taken on board. But I guess that this part of the race is all about waiting for Christoph Lipp to come in and seeing where he is compared to the rest at that stage. These guys are going to run longer than that, of course, and that's when they've really got to push on their low fuel. But between now and then, there's a lot of unknown about this race and where Christoph Lipp really is compared to the rest. He's not 7 seconds in the lead, that's for sure.
Absolutely not. I mean, this race really could go any which way, barring Christoph Lipp at the minute, who has just completely romped away with it thus far. However, it really is up in the air. We're seeing some great on-track action at the minute. Raitanen is right behind Gulliksen, who's done a good job to get himself back up into 5th position. And now Raitanen's going up the inside in towards turn number 10, I believe this is. Gulliksen will be able to cover that one off, but Raitanen really applying the pressure to the number 3 car, who has already made a mistake at some point in this one, which took him out of 2nd position. Raitanen not able to find that move this time by, but has certainly got the pace on the back of the number 3 car.
Well, this is not going to please Gulliksen very much because they need to work together at this stage. It's what I was saying earlier on and has been so common about these races. It's just, you know, working together in this second part of the race where you're having this short stint in the middle before you have to make your final pit stop of the day. And that's where you sort of figure things out towards the end. But if these two fight, then they're going to resign themselves to an out of the top 5 finish. And look at this, Gulliksen defending. Not really as if to say, please don't attack me, just as if to say, I don't want to lose this place. But losing this place will be better right now than a side-by-side battle, which is starting to endure now. Sully Raitanen outside through turn 3, and he's not going to make it round there, or is he? Pushed up the circuit. Gulliksen doesn't want him to go round there. He's still there, though. Wow, that was close. And again, these two cost each other time through that section.
You're absolutely right. Sully Raitanen was on the grass at one point on the inside of that right-hander there. Raitanen has got the pace on the back of Gulliksen, but Gulliksen really did not want to give that one up. It was the immovable object meeting the unstoppable force, and unfortunately, they have just cost themselves time. They've shot themselves both in the foot, but once more, Sully Raitanen is on the back of the number 3 car. We check in with James Barry and Gestenbakken. This is for P2 at the minute. Christoph Lipp is 7 seconds up the road, so James Barry's not going to have any slipstream to defend this position with, but it's just up to Gestenbakken when he wants to go for that move. And I think Gestenbakken, seeing the bigger picture, maybe unlike Gulliksen and Raitanen further back behind.
Yeah, I think it's such a more sensible thing for these two to do. No, even if it's not catching Christoph Lipp here, it's about distancing those behind. I mean, Sikorsky's pit stop was 10 seconds longer than these guys, nearly. You've got to think about that kind of gap reversing itself in the next part of the race, and until they have the gap to sustain that. Gestenbakken here doing the more sensible thing. He's fuel saving as well, so not only does it help them as a group go faster, but also actually, if you're the trailing car, you can take advantage of it yourself. Lift off a little bit into the corners, save a bit of fuel, and maybe your final pit stop of the day will be a little bit shorter.
Absolutely, we're not even halfway through this race. We've still got another pit stop in store. It's a mandatory, at minimum, 2 stops here today. You've got to think about the bigger picture, and I think it can be very easy for some drivers to get tunnel vision and just go for the move that they see on circuit. Sikorsky losing a few places there. Has there been an incident for the 146 car, or has it just been overtaken by both Ewan Bremer and Luke Crowley? As we get pictures of Sikorsky there down in P9, losing a little bit of time to those guys, but it doesn't seem like he's lost too much time whatsoever. So I think maybe a slight mistake and he's lost those spots, but he can keep going here.
Well, this is going to become a bit of a problem for Sikorsky, all of this traffic, or it could do, especially because they're so mismatched in strategy. Got 18 seconds, 16, 21, 17. Nobody really on the same strategy there at all, which is not ideal. You need some some people on the same strategy to have the same ambitions here in this race, really, for it to properly work well. But that's not what they've got at the moment. Just in front, he has got Luke Crowley, who's currently leading the AM race. Pablo Serrano in second place, just 3 seconds further behind, but Serrano's first stop was long, and that's a gap that he could very much reverse in the second pit stop of the day, if indeed, or when it, I should say, it comes around. Here, though, comes Crowley in the blue. He's going to go for it. Well, this is interesting now. All of these four with different ambitions and goals and strategies in this race. And Sikorsky nearly hit Bramer there as Crowley got a little bit unstuck through turn one. He broke too late at turn one, and he just got a little bit loose there. Not sure what happened to him, but he drops to 10th, and it very nearly caused a big crash in the group. Thankfully, they all avoided him, but Crowley lost a lot of time there.
I think there might have been a puff of smoke, possibly. Luke Crowley locking the tyres, trying to turn and brake at the same time. Very difficult in these cars. We're getting the replay of what happened. It was all looking very well and good for Luke Crowley, making the position on Ewan Bramer in front of him. Then into the first braking zone, completely gets it wrong, drops it mid-corner, has to correct the steering and loses 3 spots. Well, technically 2 spots because of it, but still Luke Crowley will be kicking himself because of that one, and now that has invited Pablo Serrano to within 2.5 seconds of him.
Sort of very similar sort of half spin for Larson in the first stint of the race. For whatever reason, they're just entering a bit too fast at turn one, and the rear end does not have the grip to cope with it. It's something you see very commonly at turn one. Was there any contact? I don't think so. He's like, yeah, just turns in and loses it. And you know, normally you see the rear end just sort of running out of grip, especially in these kind of cars at higher speed corners, and that's where, you know, cars can get very twitchy and edgy and very difficult to deal with. But this is a low speed corner, and for whatever reason, that's a couple of occasions in half an hour now we've seen cars just lose it on turning, which is, I think, unusual at a hairpin like that.
Very strange indeed. But nevertheless, Luke Crowley is still running in this race. I think that could have gone a lot worse ways for Luke there. And you can see this beautiful shot of James Barry running in P2, Sackboy on the car. I noticed that just a few moments ago, and that is a very nice little Easter egg, you could say, on the livery. And James Barry actually running very wide out of that left-hander could give him some pressure from Gestern-Becken. However, I think the number 90 car's intentions have been made very, very clear throughout this race. He is happy to sit behind in P2. Christoph Lipp, as far as they're concerned, I think at the minute is well up the road and untouchable. It's just about conserving the gaps to the drivers behind and let them scrap it out. You touched on Sikorsky going longer on the stop and then that reversing. He made a mistake himself, and now that helps out number 10 and number 90. So it's just about running your race, keeping it nice and clean, and the other drivers, hopefully, for your sake of the sake of your race, will tumble over each other. But nevertheless, this race continues. We're nearing the halfway point.
We are, yeah. At the end of the next lap, we should be roughly halfway, although we might get a little bit more laps than that. Now then, is that no, it's not a stop. I thought, who is that up front there? I thought Sebastian Lipp. I thought he was coming into pit lane already, but not quite. And this battle won't stop at the moment, which is not helping Sikorsky. He needs to have a nice, long, consistent run with not too much interruption, but I'm afraid he's not getting that at the moment. Inside of Bramer, he gets through. Oh, and that's off for Sebastian Lipp, who misses the apex. Sikorsky follows him, and Bramer's going to go for the crisscross on the exit through turn 2. There might have been a slight touch there as Bramer comes back through, but Sikorsky is really getting involved in a battle he doesn't quite need to. These guys are going to pit, don't forget, before he does. He can use that period of the race to use the low fuel and get ahead, but at the moment, he's just battling, getting drawn in with these guys battling for 7th place.
I mean, Sikorsky really has had a difficult time in the last 15 minutes or so, pretty much just since the pit stops ended. Sikorsky has been right in the thick of things, going for the move on Bramer. That was an opportunistic overtake. I really did think he would go for it on Sebastian Lipp, but you saw with the onboard of Franek Sikorsky, that could have gone very, very wrong very, very easily. So he's got to keep patient in this one. Still a long way to go. Ewan Bramer as well has definitely been getting the elbows out. Neither of these two really want to give up any position whatsoever, and if they make a mistake, Sebastian Lipp, he could have a jacked up rear spoiler. So it could all kick off in this battle for 7th position. They're a long way back from P6 in Soli Ratinen ahead, but nevertheless they continue along, and Ewan Bramer now potentially could be looking for an opportunity on Sikorsky.
You see in the pit stop, by the way, on the right hand side there, Lasse Sorensen probably out of this race, although not officially yet. Been in there for a quarter of an hour, and Oscar Soltero is also out of the race as well. So that is two of the big names out of this race. Unfortunately, this will become a drop week for Lasse Sorensen, but he's already got some quite low scores this season, and what's become a difficult year for him really. 2025, not necessarily had the races that he really would have wanted. He's yet to finish on the podium, for example. A driver of his quality, you'd expect him to have done that at least once by now, considering this is round 7 of 2025. With just less than half an hour to go, and the final pit stops won't be that far away, and we'll know when they've begun, because Christoph Lipp will be the first one to come in. Only 10.7 seconds in the box first time round. His second stop's going to be a much longer one, and the prospect of him coming out in traffic might just interrupt his race briefly, although he's still definitely in the prime position to win from here.
Absolutely. I mean, 10 seconds is an unprecedented quick stop there, so he will definitely have to come to pit road for a much longer time once he comes in, but has still got a very comfortable, near enough 9-second gap to James Barry in behind, who is feeling the pressure from Gestern Bakken. It's only a matter of time before Mats goes for the move, and you get the feeling he could be lining it up in towards the first corner, just a 10th separating them. Gestern Bakken practically pushing James Barry into the first corner. But once again, Gestern Bakken happily letting James Barry continue this race in front of him, and they remain P2 and P3 respectively.
There's a look from the air of Rudolf Nagel. Nifty helmet design on his helmet there. I'll ignore the fact he slightly missed the apex as we were watching him, but anyway. Yeah, nice design. He's keeping Andreas Friedrich just behind him in 12th place at the moment. You do get some of those in iRacing. It's one of the longest standing things in iRacing, actually. I've never done it, I must admit, but you do come up across drivers every now and again who have really put a lot of time into designing a very unusual helmet design, as you can see from Rudolf Nagel there. I must admit, I've never noticed that before. But the good thing about the Radicals, of course, you can see it a bit more readily than in a lot of the other sports cars around the world that are closed roof. This being open top means that we can actually see who they are, which is a little bit more of a positive, and means a design like that can come out a little bit more.
It's always nice to see as well, I think, when someone's got a personalised helmet or whatever, and just not, you know, the default one that iRacing gives you, and maybe you've taken the time to design that yourself, or you've commissioned someone to design it for you. I always like the personal touch that drivers like to put in. It shows care and dedication to your craft. There's been a change in position for P2. James Barry is coming into the pit lane. That is a bit of an early stop. I mean, I think it was the first one was 12 seconds, if I'm not mistaken, but still going earlier than you would expect is James Barry. Christoph Lipp, I mean, with a 10-second stop, still out on circuit, so we'll see how long James Barry is stationary for.
That is a little bit earlier than I was expecting, but he must have some fuel still left in the tank as he pits now. So this stop really might not be very long at all. There you go, 12.3. As he must have had some left in the tank there. So he now pulls out of pit lane. He will let Robert Walker go past, and that's going to create a bit of a gap in front, which should get in front of Stenstrud and get him into some clean air. Can't even see him on the right-hand side. That's how far behind he is. So that's gone pretty much as well as it could have done for James Barry. He's got out very nicely indeed into 14th position. Very solidly indeed. 26 minutes to go, long way home, and that car will be feeling slightly heavy at the moment, but at least he's in clean air to now get out some laps.
Here's the battle for the amateur class lead at the minute. Luke Crowley defending from Serrano. but Serrano will duck up the inside in towards that chicane and takes the lead of the amateur class. And Luke Crowley has led it since the beginning, but has slowly been reeled in by Pablo Serrano for the past 15 minutes or so. Crowley's made a couple of mistakes in his own right. Serrano's kept it very nice and tidy, and has now reaped the rewards of his efforts. Leads the amateur class with 25.5 minutes to go. Luke Crowley, though, still not out the water. He's still in the fight. We'll see how this one shapes up. But the amateurs, they could really have a nice scrap towards the end of this race.
Yeah, I'd say that Serrano is in the prime position at the moment, but Crowley will not go away. That's for sure. He's the championship leader. Louis Gregg not here. He's got a big chance to gain some points here today. But Louis Gregg's drop week's not too bad. He will probably lose points to Crowley nevertheless. Follow Andres Friedrich here. He's just in behind Rudolf Nigel, using a bit of slipstream. This is how this part of the race is supposed to be run from these two. Just trailing one another. Friedrich making use of the slipstream, and Nigel tying him around. And these guys have finally got that idea, it looks like, as well. Sebastian Lipp leading the line in 6th place for Sikorsky and Bremer. You've really got to wait through this part of the race for it to figure itself out, because you don't want to, ruin any battles that you might have later on by battling too hard at this stage in the race. So it sort of goes into this part of the race. Going to Strensrud, Team Slow-Mo, the AM Championship. Team Slow-Mo are in 2nd place in the team standings, we saw earlier on, 36 points behind. But he's on his own today, Strensrud, so he will likely lose some of those points as Christoph Lipp now comes in. Less than 24 minutes to go, and the final pit stops will start to come thick and fast now.
Imagine that most other drivers will also want to come into the pit lane in the next couple laps or so. Of course, Christoph Lipp had that 10-second stop earlier, now arriving at his box right at the end of the pit lane. Will phase through Lasse Sorensen, who, if you didn't expect him to be out at this point, I think now maybe you can call it that Lasse Sorensen is out. Been about stationary for about 20 minutes at this point, has the number 80 car, but Christoph Lipp getting that car service. He's ticked over the 10 seconds that he had last time by, and it's a 14.2 second stop. Your race leader rejoins the circuit, and I think you're absolutely right, Ewan, that this will trigger all the other pit stops to come through in the next couple laps or so, with 23 minutes left to go.
And Lipp's got himself in a really nice bit of clean air, so that is ideal. But yeah, it says to me that Christoph Lipp was probably running out of fuel at the end of that lap. He had to come in, so it can't be too much longer until the likes of Gestenbakken, who can take on much more fuel than that, and Gullikson as well, who only spent 12 seconds in the box. They've got to be in at some point soon. James Barry just less than 8 seconds behind Lipp, so he's closed in a bit, but that gives you an idea. Even James Barry is going to be quite a way behind Christoph Lipp, who I think is going to dominate this last part of the race as well, just like he's dominated the start and the middle stints of this race.
He's just got to bring it home at this point. Lipp has driven a perfect race so far. All the contenders for the lead have sort of dropped out in their own rights. Gullikson spinning out earlier on, Sorensen getting himself a penalty and now out of this race. It's been a perfect, flawless drive from Christoph Lipp so far, but he's still got 22 minutes left to go. James Barry in some clear air in his own right. We're waiting for Gestenbakken to come into the pit lane, and at the minute we are watching the battle for P5. I believe this is. No, P6, as Ewan Bremer ducks up the inside of Franek Sikorsky. These guys getting the elbows out once more, and it is Ewan Bremer to take the position on the inside of turn number 1. Sikorsky happy to give that one up, but I feel like in the next few corners he'll keep the pressure onto the number 36 car. Sikorsky and Bremer, they have really had quite the eventful race this evening, haven't they?
Yeah, they definitely have. Especially in Sikorsky's case, he seems to be involved in pretty much every battle we've had. Unfortunately, his race pace doesn't maybe seem quite as strong as his qualifying pace, but he has been involved in plenty of racing so far. He gets into the slipstream of Bremer again off of the turn 6 hairpin. He's got a pretty good run here, but he's not going to use it into turn 10. He'll brake a little bit earlier. He won't run into the back of Bremer, thankfully, but he will just trail him through this final sector of the racetrack, and we'll We'll see how long they have to wait to stop, but it will be quite a while. Gerstenbakken should be next from the leaders to come into the pit lane with 20 minutes to go. To be fair, towards the end of the stints is where you start to see the moves being made, because there's no disadvantage to battling towards the end there. You just gain a little bit of track position towards the pit lane, but it's one typical last lap move from Bremer. It was before that, as Gullikson and Reitinen both come in. Gerstenbakken must be soon coming in, but it's those two in first.
And here comes Sikorsky once more. He took a very wide line off the exit of the final corner to set up for this main straight down the inside of Ewan Bremer to take P4 away from him, as here are all the pit stops still coming out. Gullikson and Reitinen both into the box, and Bremer is still scrapping it out with Sikorsky, and actually Sikorsky has lost that position to Bremer off the exit of turn number 1. So yeah, Bremer back into P4. Sikorsky still scrapping it out with him. Gullikson stationary for 12.8 seconds. Reitinen, this is a lot longer, 27-28. There must have been some sort of speeding penalty for Reitinen here. He's been stationary for far too long at this point.
Yeah, he has. We haven't spoken really about, I guess, why these penalties are happening so commonly, but it's worth just noting just what a difficult pit entry it is here at Fuji again, because it's a high-speed chicane. You're coming up effectively to full speed by the time you get there, because the pit lane actually starts quite a long way down this very, very long pit straight. You eventually get in there, and you don't see very many chicanes before pit lanes anymore, but you do get one at Fuji to slow them down and to prevent there from being a really horrendous crash on the way into the pit lane itself. But it makes it very difficult to slow down in time for the line, as Gerstenbakken and Larsen are having to do just that right now.
Once more, the battle still continues between Bremer and Sikorsky, and this is exactly what we saw last time by Sikorsky getting the move done down the straight. Will Bremer look for it in towards turn number 1? At the top of your screens, you can see Bremer not really setting up a move at all, and actually is happy to stay in that position. So maybe are we finally seeing an end to this battle? Franek Sikorsky back up into P2 at the minute. Of course, these two have to come back in at some point. Gerstenbakken stationary for 11.8. Kjetil Larsen 11.1, and they will go for the remaining 18 minutes of this race here. They will all rejoin the circuit. This is very interesting, because that is James Barry just a little bit behind Gerstenbakken, and they are right up to each other on circuit.
Well, Barry has been putting in some fast laps away from these guys, trying to get ahead of them and get clear of them, but he's not managed to get either of those things. He's not ahead of Gerstenbakken, and he's certainly not clear of them. Larsen's very much still involved in this group, so that bit of an undercut from Barry hasn't worked, and it's always difficult to do, because an undercut in this series effectively means coming in to put more fuel in the car and trying to do faster laps with a heavier car compared to the others. No matter how much traffic you're stuck in, that can be difficult, and Barry couldn't quite do everything he wanted to there, but at least he's in the group. This will be a group now that goes all the way to the line, battling away for whatever position it turns out to be.
I'd imagine to be P2, if I'm not mistaken. The pair of these two, James Barry and Mats Gerstenbakken, they were fighting for second position. I'd imagine it will be much the same once the rest of the pit stops come out, and in fact, once Robert Walker in the number 95 comes in, we will see the clear gap between Lip and Gerstenbakken, as once again we are seeing the same battle between Ewan Bremer and Franek Sikorsky in towards turn number 1. This time it's Bremer putting the moves on the number 146 car and has made up that position once more into P2. Seen some great battling between these guys. It really is fun to see. Friedrich is into the pit lane, as is Stefan Mellis. A very long 45-second stop, and it seems like the remaining pit stops are coming out in this one. We're still waiting for the top 6 to come in for their final stop in this race, and Robert Walker as well, and I'm sure there's someone in and around that pack who hasn't come in for the second time, but we are definitely getting in towards the business end of this race.
Here we are. Svensford comes out the pit lane as well. Ole Gunnar Svensford. No speeding penalty for him, although we have had plenty behind, that is for sure. An unusual amount tonight, but as I mentioned, there's reasons for that. Fuji, not a coincidence. As we come back to the leaders, well, they are now. Bremer and Sikorsky. Second and third, they stopped for such a long time that they'll be able to go even longer if they want to. Now, they do have the option to come in a bit earlier as well if they also want to do that. As they come down the straight now. Will either of them decide this time? No, they carry on. Only just over 15 minutes to go here, so you start to get a picture of just how short this final stop is going to be, but it's not going to matter. They're going to have to hand over lots of positions anyway, as Sikorsky now comes down the inside of Ivan Bremer. These guys are working very, very well together. And, oh, well, I'll say that. Sikorsky's not quite accounted for the extra speed into turn one, and he's broken too late. This is the kind of thing that almost accidentally slows them down. They didn't want to fight, but Sikorsky just made an error there, and Bremer had no choice but to go back through again.
Absolutely, and these two, of course, as you said, they are a lot heavier on fuel. They took a longer stop, so they can still carry on, especially Sikorsky with a 3-second longer stop than even Bremer last time when they came to the box for the first time. So Sikorsky, I'd say, is in a slightly more advantageous position in comparison to the number 36. He can go a lot shorter on his final stop. The battle for second at the top of your screen, the battle for 8th position at the bottom. It's James Barry, Gestern Bakken and Kittil Larsen scrapping it out for that position. That will turn into P2, I would imagine, once Bremer and Sikorsky and Sebastian Lipp as well come into the pit lane. And I'm very intrigued to see where Sebastian Lipp comes out in this fight, because he's been very quiet, and I think when you're by yourself, that is the exact thing you want to be. So watch out for Sebastian Lipp. I think he's done a very good job in the midpoint of this race to keep out of trouble, which he failed to do in the beginning. And so yeah, we will see once they come into the pits, but nevertheless they continue on. Lipp, Bremer and Sikorsky, the leading three in the pro class at the minute. They've still got to come in for their final stop.
Yeah, they do. This order is not going to look quite right for another few minutes yet. Now, can Sikorsky get on the brakes early enough this time and get it right? He can at turn one. And then Bremer, and then Serrano's picking up the coattails of this slipstream. It's going brilliantly for him now in the AM class. Looks like he might be on his way to an AM victory, an AM class victory for Serrano. Pablo Serrano is currently 10th place in the driver's standings. He's never had a race like this before in the championship season. He didn't do the first 3 rounds, but this sort of run, he might even be able to get a top 10. That would be absolutely brilliant news for him. He's certainly not won a round of the championship yet this season, where Luke Crowley certainly has, although it's been a while for him. He won the first 2 rounds in a row and then hasn't won since. Been quite a long time, getting on for half a year now since he won a race, maybe 4 or 5 months or so. And it looks like that wait might go on, as much as he's being consistent and keeping the points lead. He is still trailing, and this is something we don't actually see very often in the AM class, but it's something that can happen occasionally. If the AM driver gets the coattails of a bit of a pro driver slipstream, then it's very difficult for an AM driver on their own, like Crowley in this situation here, to actually stay with Serrano, no matter what he does.
Absolutely. Serrano's just able to slipstream off the 2 that are fighting in front of him, and both Sikorsky and Bremer, they really are pushing in this one, and Crowley is deciding to pull the trigger on a pit stop. Last pit stop, it was 16 seconds for Crowley. Serrano was stationary for 19 seconds, so now the number 5 can go even shorter in the pit stop in comparison to Luke Crowley. So Crowley really does need to put in a shift to try and take the win of this AM class race, but I just think it might be too little too late for him, although anything can happen in the remaining 10 or so minutes in this race as we check back in with even Bremer, Sikorsky, and there is Serrano in the number 5 car, putting in an absolute shift in this race, and actually is bothering these two, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Well, they'll have to just ignore him for the moment, because he realistically isn't in their fight, and he does have a few more, especially from Sikorsky's point of view, he does have some more fuel to take on, but Bremer probably does have to be concerned about Serrano for an overall position. Don't forget, in this championship, that points are scored on an overall position basis, not where you finish in your class, and so that means you've got to fight with the AMs if you're a pro driver, and vice versa as well, because they will fight you, and there are points on the table for it. So let's see what happens here through this pit stop window, because they've got to be coming in soon. And I imagine Sebastian Lipp will be heading down himself there right now. No, he carries on. Well, I'm somewhat surprised. Over 10 minutes to go, and they can still go on. And they are choosing to, other than Serrano, who makes the very late call. I think he was going to stay out if the two of him in front came in, but he's decided to come in because they didn't. He wants a bit of clean air, and Sikorsky and Bremer continue their working together while he's gone.
Absolutely, and I think that was the right call for Pablo Serrano, also covering off Luke Crowley's undercut. Of course, it doesn't really make too much of a difference because you're pitting earlier to go heavier on the fuel, but nevertheless, Serrano into the box. We'll see how long this one is. Wow. 5.2 second pit stop there for Pablo Serrano. He'll be cutting it fine to the line, but of course, that was the trade-off that he took by pitting so long in the first stint. Now he's able to afford a 5.2 second stop to finish off this race, and now we'll see what the gap is as he emerges from the pit lane. It was 9 seconds, and now it's going to be around about 7.5 between himself and Luke Crowley in P2.
Well, still this order, of course, yet to fully be clear, but it's clear that these guys are going to be fighting for quite a high position by the end. Barry, Gestenbach and Larson and Gullikson. Just remains to be seen what position. Might even be second, but that's the best case scenario, really. And Sebastian Lipp's leading this race. If it's not second for these guys, then it means the Lipp brothers will be 1 and 2 again, much like they were in the last race of the season, round 6. So they'll be just holding off their battle for now. You can see it's not quite exploded in this group just yet, but across the point in the final 10 minutes it certainly will. And Sebastian Lipp's now into the pit lane. So I was expecting this a couple of laps ago, I've got to be honest, but he's finally in now. Bremer can carry on. Sikorsky pits in, and that's a choice from him because he took more fuel in that first stop than those two, and he's decided to come in now. So this is a choice pit stop from Sikorsky, and it won't be a very long one either. Now, will he be out near these guys, or what's going to be the situation here? Lipp now pulls to a stop. He begins his stop, but it will be longer than Sikorsky's, only about 12 seconds or so. No, it's going to be shorter than that, much shorter, 7 seconds. So Lipp's going to be close to these guys. You can't quite see him on the right-hand side, though. They will all get through on him on the way towards turn 1, and they'll be past Sikorsky as well, pretty comfortably. You'd imagine they'll do the same to Bremer. So this will be the fight for second place when they get to the end of this race, and it's going to be 3 IGL cars just in behind James Barry, 4 of them fighting for 2 spots on the podium.
Absolutely fantastic racing, and I've really got the respect for Gestenbach in this one. He's been so lax on the trigger finger. There was so many opportunities that he's had to go for an overtake on James Barry, but once again, seeing the bigger picture, knowing that you have got to get through the race without losing time to other drivers on different strategies to you, and they've done that absolutely perfectly. Now fighting it out for P2. Once Bremer and Nagel both come into the pit lane, and they will be free to race very, very soon. We've seen the restraint that Gestenbach has had so far, and I, for one, am very excited to see what we can see from this guy once he's unleashed on the back of James Barry. Where will Larson, where will Gullikson come into this fight? And if they scrap it out too hard, will Sebastian Lipp get involved? There's now even Bremer coming into the box. You could imagine that Nagel will very, very soon. We have got just over 7 minutes left in this race, and the battling really has truly begun.
And Nagel's still not coming in, so this is going to be at the fight for second, and yeah, they are just going to battle now. There's no point waiting now. Nagel's not going to be involved, and so it's time to go. And Gestenbach gets to the inside of Barry. Also in the background, Gullikson and Larson are exchanging places, and while that's going on, Barry wants to let him in. Unfortunately for him, the other two have organised this quite well as well. Gullikson and Larson single file as well, so 2 changes, but no real side-by-side racing. They're all tactically positioning themselves for the final 5 minutes of the race.
Yeah, 2 very gentleman-like overtakes there. I mean, Barry and Larson, they didn't have really any defence, and Gestenbach and Gullikson, they didn't need any kind of aggression, so they just kind of processionally swapped the positions, just a gentleman's agreement to let the other one through. But this race could still kick off, and though on paper you are teammates, if you are Kittil Larson in P6 at the minute, you are on paper teammates with Gestenbecken and Gulliksen, but they are still rivals on circuit. And someone's gone off. Is that Gestenbecken? I think Gestenbecken's made a very poor error, headed into the chicane, and he's got the slowdown off the exit there with just about 6 minutes left to go in this race. That is heartache for Mats Gestenbecken. What was such a well-worked race to be on the precipice of a P2 finish. It's all come undone.
Oh, my word. Well, that was an easy error to make for sure, but one you wouldn't expect him to make, that's for sure as well. He just goes too deep into that final chicane there, and, well, he's paid for it dearly. He's down to 7th. Sebastian Lipp in the background gets an extra place, and so now there's only 2 IGL cars in this battle, Gulliksen and Larsen, who will try and pass James Barry. That's Serrano getting back in behind Sikorsky again, who's fighting for 8th place with Serrano and Bremer. So these 3 are back together all over again. Only this time they will properly fight in the final 5 minutes. And still we haven't seen all the pit stops today. Rudolf Nagel has yet to make the final stop of the day. If he carries on next lap, I'm going to get slightly concerned he's going to do the whole race on just 1 stop. But there'll be 3 laps to go at the end of this one, and surely he'll have to come in at the end of this lap.
I mean, it would be amazing if he could, but something tells me that he'll be in. If not this lap, it'll be next lap. But yeah, Rudolf Nagel's been a bit of a fuel-saving maestro, it seems, in this race, and who knows what he can pull out of the bag and where he can finish in this race. I can't believe we still haven't seen the final pit stop with just under 4.5 minutes left to go in this race, and he could be trying to set a record possibly for the shortest ever pit stop in this championship. That remains to be seen once he comes into the pit lane and unleashes Christopher Lipp. At the top of your screen, we're seeing the battle for P3 at the minute. Once Nagel makes that final stop, it will be the battle for 2nd, and then the battle for P8, currently held by Sikorsky. Finally, Rudolf Nagel is into the pit lane, and Christoph Lipp will return to the lead of this race.
So finally normality is resumed, but I was getting concerned for a moment that Nagel would just only make 1 stop today. That would be remarkable. Anyway, Barry and Gulliksen go side by side into turn 1, and again a big slide through turn 1. The rear ends of these cars just don't look like they've got enough grip through turn 1. If you just go slightly too quick into that turn, really falls away from you. The circuit really falls away from you at that part of the track, and it seems to be affecting the way they drive through there quite dramatically. So a big slide for Gulliksen, and Barry gets straight back through again with Larsen watching on from behind. Barry is going to have Sebastian Lipp for company as well here soon. It'll be 2 laps to go at the line, and maybe Lipp will join them in their fight for the win, at the podium rather.
And further back behind at the bottom of your screen, Pablo Serrano has made up another position, getting through on Ivan Bremer. You might have seen it at the bottom of your screen. He made the position down about the midpoint of the straight and then ducked immediately to the inside. Now Bremer is looking for the move on Sikorsky, who has run very, very deep, but he's kept it on the road. And this is great battling for P7, and the fight for P2 still rages on. Lipp is appearing into the picture. James Barry could have some backup to finish off this race. We have got just under 2.5 minutes, and there's 4 cars in the battle for 2nd position.
He's not got much time, but he is there or thereabouts. Here comes Gulliksen again. Attempt number 2. Last time he went down the inside with too much speed into turn 1, and he gave over the place to Barry immediately, but James Barry lets him in. So James Barry says, well, I'm happy for you to lead right now, but don't forget the white flag's coming up next time round, and he's going to pass him again on the final lap, I would imagine. Barry has positioned himself perfectly here. As long as he can keep 3rd place, 2nd in this group, he's in the prime position to retake that place again at turn 1 next time by.
Great strategic move there from James Barry. Allow for Gulliksen to punch a hole in the air for him, and then headed down that final straight for the final time. Well, the penultimate time if you count that final run up towards the line and take the checkered flag. Nevertheless, James Barry is in, as you said, the prime position. Serrano's still maintaining that P7 ahead of Bremer. Sikorsky has fallen right off the back of those guys, so now it's a 2-car scrap for P7. This will do Serrano wonders in the Amateur Championship, finishing P7 overall. But nevertheless, he still has to defend for at least another lap from Bremer in behind, as now we duck beneath a minute in this race. The white flag will be dropping very, very soon, and the battle for P2 still rages on. It's Gullikson, Barry and Larson, and they're going to take the fight right now.
Oh, immediately, look at that. Gullikson immediately decides to pull it over to the right-hand side to break the slipstream, more than to really defend. And so James Barry's got a lot of work to do here, especially with Larson so close. Larson's closer to him than he is to Gullikson at the moment. It could be 3 wide as Gullikson pulls to the inside. Barry through the middle. Will Larson stick the nose as well? Not quite. Barry's not found this quite as easy this time round to get back past again. Oh, he's wide, and he's going to be pushed off there, was he? By Gullikson. That could be tempers starting to fray now between these guys as Larson slipped through and James Barry pushed wide through turn 1, loses his 3rd place as well as 2nd.
Sensational defending there from Gullikson, and he helped his teammate out superbly, really. James Barry will be feeling hard done by. This is the final lap of the race. Christoph Lipp is 10 seconds up the road from these guys. It's Gullikson, after spinning right in the precipice of P2. He's had his comeuppance in this race. He's done fantastically to recover this one, and now he has to defend just for one more sector from Larson and Barry behind, and there is Christoph Lipp absolutely romping away with it.
Well, it remains to be seen what could have happened in another world where he's challenged a bit more in this race, because of course that spin for Gullikson, etc. But at the end of the day, he has done a faultless race, has Christoph Lipp, and he's going to win again here in the Radical Sim Racing European Championship. It's his 2nd win in a row, 4 wins in the season. Christoph Lipp wins at Fuji in the number 1 car, and he's cementing his place now in that top 7. He'll be in the World Finals this year, and he'll be looking to take the whole thing after the season in 2025 he's had. His teammates couldn't join him on the podium, sadly for them. It's Gullikson and Larson who will be there instead. And in the background, Pablo Serrano is going to win in the AM class for the very first time. He just beats even Bremer to the line. Side by side they go over the line. Serrano gets a bonus position in 7th place, and he weaves across the line because he knows he's a class winner as well. He is going to be very, very pleased with that. 4th appearance of 2025, and Pablo Serrano's got his 1st win of the year.
You can see the unbridled joy that he has in those weaves. He knows he has put in a stellar performance to win the amateur class. But how about that race? Christoph Lipp, 10.7 seconds clear of the rest of the field. What a performance. And you can see all 3 teammates here of Gullikson, Larson and Gestrombakken who made that mistake. What could have been if he didn't. They celebrate together. But how about that?
Well, Christoph Lipp wins ahead of Howard Gullikson and Kjetil Larson on the podium. James Barry and Sebastian Lipp inside the top 5, with Matt Gestrombakken in 6th place. Pablo Serrano wins the AM class, just getting in front of him and Bremer at the line. Frank Sikorski and Luke Crowley rounding out the top 10. 11th place went to Andreas Friedrich, who loses a bit of ground in that chase for the top 7 positions. Although he did beat Soltero, who retired alongside Lashley Sorensen. Sully Ratinen finished in 12th place, just ahead of Robert Walker, with Dennis Kirkopoulos, Rudolf Nagel, Kim-Andre Bjorklund, Ole Gunnar Stensrud, most of whom, or some of whom, got speeding penalties throughout that race. Stefan Mellis was the only driver to finish 1 lap down. Well, what a great race that was. 37 laps. And, of course, a bit of waiting through the middle part of the race, but that's always what we see. It always ramps up towards the finish. And when the drivers know who they're battling with for what position at the end, it starts to fire off. And you saw it there in that battle for 2nd place.
That was spectacular, right towards the finish. I mean, that was a masterclass defense from Havard Gullikson there. And commiserations as well to any driver that, well, not really commiserations, but I mean, just... You got a feel for James Barry. He put in the performance. He made that strategic move last time by, but it was too little, too late. And Gullikson defended spectacularly, allowed for Larson to follow through as well. That was great team play from the IGL boys. But they go again in Hockenheim. And what a race it was at Fuji today.
Absolutely. We'll have a time to chat to some of the drivers who finished up towards the front tonight, starting with Christoph Lipp, who wins overall for the second round in a row. Congratulations, Christoph, on victory. 10 seconds the gap this time, but it was closer at the start of the race, certainly. What was going to be your plan for sort of a closer race here today? And did that strategy of yours change once Havard Gulliksen spun from behind you in that final sector?
Yeah, the strategy was originally to drive together with Sebastian, to have stints together and to save some fuel, and also to have faster lap times with the slipstream. That failed after Sebastian made some mistakes, and then I just decided to save fuel in the first stint to go one extra lap, and that worked out. Of course, it helped that Havard had the mistake. And then after, in the second stint, I went full speed, and then I saw, okay, I'm safely in front, and then it was quite calm race.
And you've got 4 wins in the last 6 rounds now of the Radical Sim Racing European Championship. Does that kind of thing make you look ahead a little bit at what's to come in 2025? Look ahead to the World Finals and start to think about your chances for that, or do you focus on the races in front of you at the time?
No, we'll focus on the European Championship at the moment. You know, there are 2 drop weeks for everyone, so there is still chances for other people. It's a little bit sad that Christopher couldn't drive today, so he had now 2 races in a row with 0 points. That's, as I said, a little bit sad, because we had a really good competition together. But he still has the chance, and we have, I think, 3 races to go, and it's not won yet.
Yeah, we certainly do. Starting with the Hockenheim, of course, in 3 weeks' time. We look forward to seeing you then, Christoph. But for now, thanks for chatting to us tonight, and congrats again on the win.
Yeah, thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. That's Christoph Lipp, the winner tonight from Fuji, ahead of Havard Gulliksen, who finished in 2nd position. Havard, welcome in. Good to have you with us. How are you feeling at the end of that race? Do you feel a bit of a missed opportunity after that spin in the opening 15 minutes of the race, or do you feel 2nd place was maybe the maximum today?
First of all, I feel sweaty. It was a very hard race after I did this stupid mistake on lap 6 or what is what? Lap 6, I think. I don't know. The laps before that, I just enjoyed staying behind Christoph. But he also, I don't think he pushed much, so it's hard to say. But he won gracefully.
What was your plan going into the final few laps? It's always clear in these races when you know what position you're fighting for and who you're fighting with, then the battle really begins, and it did between yourself and Larson and Barry as well. What was your plan going on to the last lap to get that 2nd place, which you eventually got?
It's hard to say what kind of plan you have, because you have to see what happens. Barry went on the inside because I defended on the inside. I did a lot of understeer out of the corner because I broke really late. I don't know if he was happy with it, but I couldn't do anything else. So I think it was fair.
And it's got you 2nd place, because double podium for the team as well. So congrats on that tonight, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. That is Havard Gulliksen finishing in 2nd place, ahead of Kjetil Larsen, who finishes in 3rd. Welcome in, Kjetil, and good to have you with us. 3rd place here tonight for yourself. Tell us about that last lap. We just spoke to Havard about it. What was your perspective on that last lap?
Yeah, that was the best lap I ever had, I think. It was so intense, and I'm so tired right now, but it was really, really good fun.
And always good fun racing around here as well at this circuit. You know, it's not your first podium this season, but you know it's another solid result, and unfortunately a season without a win just yet for yourself. But how much are you sort of pleased with the season that you've had so far, and how much you aiming for that victory maybe in the final 3 rounds of the season?
Yeah, I'm happy with the season so far, but I've been a little bit unlucky a couple of races. So, but the next 3 races, I like the tracks. I think it should be good. So I'm going for a win in one of the 3 last races.
Well, we look forward to seeing it, but for now, thanks very much for coming to have a chat with us, and congratulations again on third place tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. That is Ketil Larsen in third place tonight in the pros. Let's go down to the AMs now, where unfortunately Pablo Serrano hasn't joined us yet, but Luke Crowley has. So we can chat to him. Luke, welcome in. Good to have you with us, and congrats on a second place and a top 10 overall. Do you feel there's anything you could have done to get anywhere nearer Pablo Serrano tonight, or was that the maximum for you?
It was trying to stay in front of him as much as possible. I was just trying to leech off the guys in front, but I made a mistake into T1. I think I was trying for an overtake on Ewan, and it just went wrong. And from that point on, my tyres were cooked until I came in for the second pit stop. So I just lost all pace. So yeah, it was done at that point. But no, he's super quick anyway. So I'm not too fussed. Second place will do. As long as the first place keeps being different drivers, I'm happy being second.
Yeah, well, that certainly does help. I was going to ask you about that actually, that the season you're having so far, actually, in terms of victories. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you haven't won since you won the first 2 races in a row in the AM class. I'm talking about is a class victory. Is that bothering you, or are you happy just leading the championship anyway?
I'm happy. Points win championships, not wins. So I'm quite happy with it. It's nice to win races. It's always nice to win races. But like I say, as long as the guys in front of me keep changing around and keep taking points off each other, I'll stay in front. So I'm quite happy with that.
Absolutely. Well, it's certainly true tonight. Congrats again on second place, and thanks for chatting to us.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks very much, Luke Crowley, second place in the AMs. And while we were chatting to him, Pablo Serrano did pop himself in the waiting room, and we can have a quick chat to him as well. Pablo, welcome in, and congratulations on an AM class victory here tonight, your first of the 2025 season. Tell us about those final few laps, though. You were battling away with Ivan Bremer for that 7th position and ended up getting 7th overall. How was that?
Yeah, that was intense. I was sweating a lot during the last, 4 laps. First of all, very respectful from him. It was a pleasure battling very good with the wheel to wheel, super clean, and that gave me the confidence to throw it down the outside on the last lap, and he gave me the space. We were battling, and at the end, thanks to the slipstream, I was getting P7, so not bad.
And you must be very pleased as well to be a winner in the AM class for the first time. Just tell us how you feel about that, and maybe the rest of the season as well, now that you've got this win.
Well, I hope to this win not to be the last one, of course, but I've prepared a lot for this one, and hopefully everything went all right. The first couple of laps were a disaster for me, but with a little bit of pace and a lot of luck with the guys ahead battling a little bit. Yeah, so happy.
Congrats again, Pablo, on the AM class victory tonight, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Pablo Serrano, the AM class winner here tonight from Fuji. Just ahead of Luke Crowley, who will continue to lead the championship there. As will our race winner tonight overall. Christoph Lipp wins for the 4th time in the 2025 Radical Sim Racing European Championship, and for his 2nd win in a row as well, either side of the summer break. We're properly back racing now in the Radical Sim Racing Championship, that is for sure, because no more summer breaks or anything like that. No real breaks of any note from now until the end of the season. We'll be back next week in the Radical Sim Racing Championship with the race at Mosport, but in this not Mosport, excuse me, at Sebring. But in this championship, we'll be back at Hockenheim on 7th of September. That's in 3 weeks' time. You'll find us at same place, same time on RaceSpotTV from 9 o'clock CET. Make sure you join us for that. In the meantime, make sure you join us for the Sebring race for the Americas Championship next weekend, and of course on every Friday for the 2100 GMT broadcasted split races of the Radical Esports Cup here on iRacing next week, being at Sebring. I've been Neil O'Leary alongside Dan Field tonight, and Ramiro Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras. It's been a great race from Fuji Speedway. We very much hope you'll join us again in 3 weeks' time for another one from the Hockenheim Ring. Goodbye for now.